Mara stepped into the quiet repair bay just as the twin suns dipped below the horizon. The air smelled of metal and oil, warm and comforting to her. She had spent countless hours fixing starship engines, but today felt different. Before her stood the alien officer, Keleth, tall and poised, her armor dented at the chest plate. The smooth blue surface was cracked, and thin lines of light flickered where the damage sat. Mara felt her heart pound at the sight. She wrapped her gloved fingers around a clean cloth and took a slow breath. In her mind, she repeated, "Be careful. Show respect." Keleth's eyes, a deep violet color, watched each of Mara's careful steps.
Ow!
When sparks flew from Mara's welding torch, Keleth's hand moved to the side, hovering near her sidearm. She did not draw it, but her warning was clear. Tread lightly, human. The words carried no threat, only caution. Mara paused and wiped the sweat from her brow. She chose gentler sparks, lowering the torch's intensity. Each tiny crack in the armor demanded her full attention. The repair took patience and skill, but Mara welcomed the challenge. In that moment, time felt suspended between star patterns and the soft hum of machinery. As she worked, Mara noticed a small inscription etched beneath the damaged plate. The letters were not in any human script she knew. She paused and looked up at Keleth, whose posture stiffened at the sight. Quietly, Mara traced the inscription with her fingertip. She felt the faint ridges beneath her glove. "What does it say?" she asked softly, her voice echoing in the empty bay. Keleth's voice trembled when she replied, describing the words. As a promise made long ago by someone she loved, a mentor, gone, but never forgotten. Mara set aside her tools and folded her arms, listening as Keleth's stern mask slipped away in the soft glow of the bay lights. Mara returned to the torch and worked with renewed purpose. She sealed the crack, layer by layer, ensuring no weak spot remained. The final weld glowed white-hot before cooling into a smooth seam. Keleth stepped closer, her tall figure casting a gentle shadow over Mara's hands. When Mara peeled off her gloves, she offered them to Keleth as a simple gift of trust. Keleth accepted, brushing her own fingers against the human's. In that single touch, Mara felt a wave of warmth rush through her chest. A small smile curved Keleth's lips, her first human expression of gratitude. When the repair was complete, Keleth lifted her chest plate and tested its strength with a gentle press. The armor held firm. She nodded, eyes shining in the dim light. Mara felt a thrill of pride and relief. "Thank you," Keleth whispered, her voice softer than before. Mara gathered her tools and placed them on the workbench. She met Keleth's gaze and gave a small bow of respect. The alien officer returned the gesture in her own way, inclining her head with a hint of warmth. As they left the bay together, a new bond formed, one built on careful hands, shared stories, and the promise of a friendship that would stretch across the stars. Mara led Keleth down the station's glowing corridor, her boots echoing softly against the metal floor. The air smelled faintly of sweet spice from the market stalls ahead. Mara glanced at her guest, noting how the alien woman's tall frame moved with careful grace. Keleth still held some of her usual reserve, but her eyes were less tense than before. Mara carried 2 steaming cups of nutrient tea in her hands. She offered one to Keleth, who took it with a curious tilt of her head. Warm steam curled between them as they sipped in silence. Mara broke the quiet. "This tea is made from sunroot petals," she said. "It's light and soothing." Keleth lifted the cup and breathed in the scent. After a moment, she nodded. "On my world, we drink moonflower brew," she answered. "It glows faintly under twin moons." Mara's eyes widened. "That sounds beautiful." She set her cup down and reached for a pastry filled with sweet fruit paste. "Would you like to try this?" she asked. Keleth hesitated, then accepted a small bite. Her lips curved into a gentle smile at the unexpected sweetness. They walked past vendors selling glowing crystals and tiny robots dancing on delicate legs. Mara described each stall as though she were showing a friend her favorite childhood spots. She pointed out a vendor selling star maps, explaining how she dreamed of exploring beyond the known charted sectors. Keleth listened closely, her earlier caution easing with each step. Then Kelith shared her own memory, how she had once watched comets streak across the desert skies of her home planet. She spoke of the silence she felt under open sands, and how the comets felt like messages from ancestors. As they rounded a corner, a group of children ran past, chasing a small gravity ball. Kelith paused, watching the ball hover and spin. Her stern features softened at the sight of laughter. Mara noticed and smiled. On my world, children play with similar toys, she said. They chase them under oak trees. Kelith's violet eyes reflected a distant memory. I remember laughter like that, she whispered. For a moment, the lines of command and duty that separated them seemed to fade, replaced by simple, shared joy. They reached a small alcove with 2 curved benches facing a panoramic view window. Beyond the glass, the black void of space stretched wide, dotted with distant stars. Mara sat down and patted the spot beside her. Kelith joined her, holding the empty teacup in both hands. They gazed out at the nebula clouds swirling in violet and gold. Mara pointed to a small cargo ship gliding past. That one's bound for Alaris, she said. My next assignment will be there. Kelith turned to her. You will explore new worlds, she said softly. I respect your courage. Mara felt a warm glow in her chest. She realized how much she had come to trust this alien officer. And I respect you, she replied. You let me fix your armor when no one else would. Kelith's lips curved into a real smile this time. She placed the cup on the bench and leaned forward. You showed me respect when I felt alone, she said. That matters more than I can express. Mara reached out and touched Kelith's forearm. The alien's skin was cool beneath her glove. In that moment, their bond deepened beyond words. When the station's horn called in the next transport cycle, Mara stood and offered her hand. Kelith rose gracefully and accepted it. Their eyes met in mutual understanding. Though they came from different worlds, they had found common ground. In simple kindness and shared stories, as Kelith turned back toward the repair bay, Mara watched her go, feeling a spark of hope. In the vast reaches of space, 2 strangers had become friends, 1 cup of tea at a time. Mara returned to the repair bay early the next morning, determination in her step. The soft hum of idle machinery greeted her as she opened the heavy door. Kelith stood alone by the workbench, the repaired armor resting on its stand. Her posture was rigid, but her eyes held something new, an openness that Mara had not seen before. Today Mara planned to understand the inscription beneath the armor's surface, the one that had stirred something deep in Kelith's heart. She set her toolkit down and studied the chest plate again. The inscription lay hidden just beneath the seam, where no casual observer would look. Mara ran her gloved fingertip over the gentle grooves, tracing each curve. I want to know more, Mara said, her voice soft. Kelith drew a slow breath. The alien woman reached out and grasped the plate with both hands, lifting it carefully into her arms. This, Kelith began, voice quiet, was given to me by my mentor Lareth. Her shoulders trembled, though she did not break eye contact. Mara settled beside her, every sense alert. She knew that mentors held high status in many cultures. Tell me about Lareth, she encouraged. Kelith's gaze drifted to the far corner of the bay, where a single lamp shone overhead. He taught me more than tactics, Kelith said, voice wavering. He taught me purpose. When I first wore this armor, I felt invincible. He said it would protect my body, but courage must come from within. Mara felt a lump form in her throat. She reached out and placed a hand gently over Kelith's gloved fingers. Kelith's voice cracked with memory. On the day he died, he pressed this plate into my hands and whispered, "Carry my will with you." Tears glistened in Kelith's violet eyes. She looked at the smooth blue metal, now whole again. I have worn it into battle. Followed orders without question, but I have never felt worthy of his words. Mara's heart ached at the raw honesty. She closed her eyes, absorbing the weight of Kelith's grief and duty. Carefully, Mara selected a soft cloth and placed it across her lap. She laid the chest plate on the cloth as if it were a fragile treasure. You are worthy, Mara said. Voice firm but gentle. Khalith's shoulders shook, and she lowered her head. Mara studied the inscription once more. With steady hands, she cleaned the metal surface, revealing the full dedication etched by Lareth's hand. The letters gleamed under the workshop lights. Kelith watched every movement, her breath coming in quiet, uneven rhythms. "There is more than one way to honor him," Mara continued. "Strength comes from caring. You chose to protect others. Even when you felt lost, that choice shows true courage." Khalith's lips trembled as she absorbed the words. She reached out and touched Mara's hand, a gesture of trust that felt sacred in the still bay. Mara placed her free hand over Kelith's, closing the circle of support between them. In that silence, the two shared a bond deeper than repair work or station duties. Kelith lifted her head, meeting Mara's gaze with renewed determination. "Help me carry his will," Kelith whispered. Mara nodded, tears sparkling at the corners of her eyes. She stood and offered her hand. Kelith placed the chest plate on her own arms, as if fitting a second skin. Then she took Mara's hand, firm and warm. Together, they left the bay and stepped into the corridor's gentle glow. Each footstep echoed the promise they made to honor memory through action, to find courage and compassion, and to stand side by side, human and alien, guided by a mentor's legacy and the kindness they had found in one another. Mara returned to the repair bay that afternoon, humming softly as she set her toolkit on the bench. Kelith stood near the far wall, arms folded over her chest plate. Outside, the station's routine thrummed through the floor, a comforting rhythm. Mara glanced at Kelith and smiled. "Ready for today's test?" she asked. Kelith inclined her head. "Always," she replied, voice calm. The lights above them flickered once, then twice, as a sudden jolt shook the metal floor. Warning. Sirens squealed through the bay's speakers. Mara's heart tightened. She flicked a switch on the console. "Power surge," she said, eyes wide. Red emergency lights bathed the room in a harsh glow. Kelith's posture straightened, muscles coiling for action. Mara backed away from her workbench. "Let's evacuate," she said, but Kelith shook. Her head. "I will guard you," Kelith said firmly. 8. Her hand hovered near her sidearm holster. Mara took a steadying breath. "We both leave," she insisted. "Neither of us faces danger alone." Khalith's violet eyes searched Mara's face, then she stepped back. "Together," she whispered. They walked side by side toward the bay door as sparks flew from an overhead conduit. The ceiling panel above rattled loose. Mara's mind raced. With a swift motion, Kelith reached out and grabbed Mara's arm, pulling her back just before the panel crashed down. The impact sent a thunderous boom through the bay. Dust and fragments rained around them. Mara gasped, pressing her hand to her chest. Kelith stood protectively in front of Mara, her armor gleaming in the red light. Her tall frame seemed to fill the space between danger and the human. "Are you hurt?" Kelith asked, voice low. Mara shook her head, voice trembling. "I'm fine, thanks to you." She reached out, placing a hand on Kelith's forearm. The alien's skin was cool and firm beneath her glove. Behind them, the alarm shriek faded as backup generators kicked in. White lights returned, revealing the damaged ceiling and scattered tools. Mara and Kelith assessed the scene together. Mara bent down to pick up a fallen wrench. "This bay needs new wiring," she said lightly, trying to steady her voice. Kelith knelt beside her, collecting broken panels. They worked in silence, the shared task a balm for rattled nerves. When the last fragment was cleared, Mara looked at Kelith. "You saved me," she said quietly. Kelith met her gaze for a long moment. "You would have done the same," she replied. The words carried the weight of truth. Mara felt a warmth spread through her chest. In that dangerous moment, they had trusted each other fully. The station's intercom crackled to life. "Attention crew," a calm voice announced. "Repairs are underway. Bay 2 is secure." Mara sighed in relief. She wiped sweat from her brow and offered Kelith a small smile. "How about we finish our work now?" Kelith nodded and stepped back toward the chest plate on its stand. Mara retrieved her torch and tools. This time, she worked with extra care, ensuring every bolt and seam was secure. Kelith watched her, arms relaxed at her sides. Each movement Mara made reminded Keleth of their shared bond built on respect, trust, and a willingness to protect one another. When the repair was complete, Mara deactivated her torch and cleaned the work area. She turned to Keleth and bowed her head in a respectful gesture. Keleth returned the gesture in her own way, inclining her head slightly. No words were needed. In the soft hum of the workshop, their friendship had grown stronger under pressure. As they left the bay together, the corridor's lights glowed warmly. Mara glanced at Keleth, heart full of gratitude. Keleth returned the look with a small, genuine smile. In that moment, danger had become a bridge, forging two very different souls into allies, and perhaps something more under the quiet promise of shared courage. Late that night, Mara slipped back into the silent workshop, her heart beating with excitement and a touch of nerves. In her arms, she carried a compact energy pack she had spent hours modifying, its delicate circuits glowing faintly under the fight. Workshop lights. Keleth stood by her repaired chest plate, clad in her uniform, watching Mara's careful steps. Without a word, Mara set the pack on the bench and opened its casing, revealing golden wires woven like threads of sunlight. As she worked, her fingertips moved with steady confidence, connecting the pack to the armor's power conduit. Keleth leaned forward, curiosity softening the usual lines of command on her face. When Mara clicked the final latch closed, she had stepped back and activated the pack. A gentle hum filled the air, and thin veins of soft blue light spread across the armor's surface, dancing in patterns that mirrored distant star fields. Keleth lifted her hand and brushed her palm along the breastplate, feeling the warmth and the alive energy beneath the metal. Mara watched her eyes widen, and she offered a shy smile. "It will draw power from solar flares," Mara explained quietly. "Your armor will recharge itself in daylight." Keleth nodded, visibly moved by the human's ingenuity and thoughtfulness. "It is more than I ever expected," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The two stood side by side under the humming glow, the alien warrior and the human engineer bound by shared wonder. Mara tapped the control dial, and the light shifted to mirror the glow of distant nebulae. Keleth's lips curved into a gentle smile, the first time Mara had seen true delight on her stoic features. In that moment, the repair bay felt less like a place of duty and more like a space of friendship. Mara realized how much she valued Keleth's trust, and Keleth felt a warmth she had not known since her mentor's passing. They exchanged a look that spoke volumes: respect, gratitude, and a promise of loyalty. As they left the workshop together, the soft hum of the new energy pack followed them, a silent echo of two hearts beating in time beneath alien armor and human hands. Mara and Keleth found themselves side by side in the station's quiet cafe. The low hum of conversation and clink of utensils seemed to wrap around them like a soft blanket. Mara pulled out 2 steaming bowls of spiced broth, one rich with root vegetables and sweet seeds, the other shimmering with glowing algae flakes that Keleth favored from her home world. As they sat at a curved table by a frosted window showing the distant swirl of a gas giant's rings, Mara offered Keleth a spoonful of her own broth. Keleth tasted it, her violet eyes lighting up as the warm flavors danced on her tongue. Mara smiled at the sight, feeling a joy she had not known before in this lonely station. Between sips and soft laughter, they shared stories of what they missed most. Mara spoke of her sister's laughter echoing through sunlit forests back on Earth, and Keleth described the wind whispering across the endless dunes of her desert home. Each memory they exchanged built a bridge between their worlds, and with every detail, their bond grew stronger. Mara reached into her satchel and pulled out a small, handcrafted sketch, a simple drawing of Keleth's armor against a backdrop of twin moons. She slid it across the table. Keleth's stern features softened as she traced Mara's careful lines with her fingertip. "You see me?" Keleth said, voice low and full of wonder. Mara nodded, heart pounding. "I see you," she replied, "and I appreciate who you are in every star and shadow." Keleth's lips curved into a genuine smile for the first time beyond duty, and she reached across the table to touch Mara's hand, her cool fingers brushing the human's warm skin. The simple contact brought a spark of comfort to both of them. As the cafe lights dimmed to signal the next shift, Mara gathered her bowl and rose. Keleth stood too, draping a dark, woven cloak over Mara's shoulders, its fabric threaded with tiny fibers that glowed faintly under the station's lights. Mara felt the weight of the cloak settle around her, and she looked into Keleth's eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Keleth's gaze held kindness and promise. "May it keep you safe," she said softly, "as you have kept me." In that moment, two very different hearts beat in unison. The human engineer who offered kindness and the alien warrior who returned it with loyalty. They stepped out of the cafe together, leaving behind the gentle echoes of their laughter, and walked into the cool corridor light, knowing that whatever challenges waited among the stars, they would face them side by side. Mara arrived at the docking bay before dawn, her boots echoing softly on the metal floor. The hull of her small scout ship gleamed under the cool lights. She carried a single satchel slung over her shoulder, its weight familiar and comforting. Keleth stood nearby, her armor polished and her posture as steady as ever. In the quiet air, Mara remembered the first time they met, two strangers brought together by a broken chest plate. Now, after days of shared laughter and silent understanding, their bond had grown into something neither expected but both cherished. Keleth stepped forward and held out a small, ornate box made of dark wood and inlaid with silver filigree. Fingers closed around its smooth surface, and she felt the careful craftsmanship beneath her touch. "Open it," Keleth said softly, her violet eyes reflecting a warmth Mara had not seen before. Inside, nestled on a bed of soft cloth, a shard of the Mentor's armor, reborn into a pendant that could hang from Mara's toolkit. The metal caught the light and glimmered like a distant star. Mara lifted the pendant, her breath catching at the weight of Keleth's trust. Tears shimmered in Mara's eyes as she looked up at the alien officer. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. Keleth reached out, her cool fingers brushing Mara's hand. "Say you will remember me," Keleth replied simply. "Say you will carry our promise into the stars." Mara nodded, her voice thick with emotion. "I will," she said. "Every time I fasten this pendant, I'll remember your kindness and your courage." Keleth's stern lips curved into a genuine smile, and she inclined her head in approval. Mara leaned forward and wrapped her arms around Keleth's waist. The alien woman hesitated, then returned the embrace with careful tenderness. Moment the station's bustle seemed to fade away, leaving only the soft hum of their shared heartbeat.
Mara
felt the strength of their friendship like a warm tide. Rising from the smallest gesture, a shared cup of tea, a repaired seam, a quiet conversation, and building into something unbreakable. When they finally stepped apart, Keleth took Mara's gloved hand and pressed the pendant into her palm. "Go well, Mara," Keleth said. "Explore new worlds, find new stories, and know you have a friend here." Mara swallowed and stood tall. "And you have a friend in me," she replied. She paused, looking up at Keleth's proud silhouette against the docking bay's lights. "I will return one day," she promised. "Until then, may your path be clear and your heart strong." Mara turned toward her ship and paused at the ramp. She glanced back at Keleth, standing like a sentinel by the hangar door. The promise they shared echoed in Mara's chest as she climbed aboard. With a final wave, Mara sealed the ramp and took her seat at the controls. The engines hummed to life, and the hatch closed with a soft hiss. Through the viewport, Keleth raised her arm in salute, and Mara mirrored the gesture.
The ship lifted.
Off, Mara watched the station shrink beneath her and saw Keleth's figure grow small against the platform. Clutching the pendant close, Mara felt hope bloom in her heart. No matter how far she traveled, she would carry their friendship with her unbroken bond, forged in sparks, stories, and shared courage across the stars.